Harmon, back to a little character and courage for you. Was there a point in your life as a baseball player where you said, I just can't do this, I'm ready to walk away?
Well, not really. I came to a point in my career, I think I mentioned that year I went to the American Association. The old Washington Senators, of all things, didn't have a AAA ball club. We had a AA and several A leagues, but no AAA ball club. And they farmed me out to Indianapolis, and I was on the roster in Washington for about a month and had pinch hit twice. I was 1 for 2 pinch hitting and hitting .500. And they came to me and they said, we're sending you to Indianapolis. Well, that seemed like the end of the world to me, and so I went to Indianapolis, and it was like spring training to me all over again. And it was a good league. They had some great pitchers in that league, and it took me a while to get going. And finally, I was just starting to hit the ball, and came to me and they said, we're sending you back to Chattanooga. And I had just led the league in home runs at Chattanooga the year before, and I thought I didn't need to go back there. But I did need to prove to the people on the major league level that I could play and I could hit Major League Baseball. And I said, well, I came to the fork in the road, like Yogi says. When you come to the fork in the road, take it. And so I took the fork in the road, and I went back to Chattanooga. And that was, I guess, the turning point in my whole career of baseball was when I went back to Chattanooga and proved that I could hit. I had a good year. The rest of the year went back to the Senators at the end of the year and stayed and got lucky. And next year I was a regular player. But thinking about that fork in the road that Yogi talks about, I asked him about that a couple of years ago. I said, Yogi, you're always talking about that fork in the road. When you come to take it, I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, in my hometown in New Jersey, there's a street that goes like this and it comes back together. So the stuff he says makes sense. You can go either way, he says.
Thank goodness that fork in the road was also in Chattanooga.
Yeah, came back to Washington.
Talk about some of the roles of character and courage, what it looks like. Did you have some mentors that played an important role in your baseball life? Oh,
many of them. Every manager and coach that I played for, I learned something from. And one guy that particularly, he just passed away, played for him in the minor leagues, Cal Irmer, a manager in the minor leagues, and then I got to play for him in the major leagues as well. In Minnesota, he managed us, and he was a guy that not only taught the game of baseball, but he taught courage and excellence, and not only in the game, but in your life. So I learned a lot from Cal. I'd have to say, over the years, he may have been the one that was really very instrumental in some of the successes that I had.
What would be a piece of advice that baseball taught you that anyone of any age can maybe use to make their lives a little more full of character or a little more courageous?
People come up to me now and they said, well, I thought you were a real big guy. You know, I was like Frank Howard or something, I guess. And I said, well, I've shrunk a lot. I used to be 6'4". But that's the thing about baseball. It doesn't matter what size you are, how big you are, how small. You can still play the game of baseball, and there's room for everybody in there that really wants to give it their best, and it takes all kinds.
And with that, I think we'll take some questions, okay, some all kinds from our audience. Audience members, if you'll please raise your hand. Andrew has a microphone, and we'll deliver you the microphone. Once you've got a question, Andrew, to your left, right over here on the right, Harmon.
Yep.
Uh-oh.
Oh, you got a Twins uniform on. All right. You know, that's a retired number you're wearing there.
I wish I could say I wore it to bed every night. I don't. I only save this for very special occasions.
I'm having trouble hearing you. Say that again.
I wish I could say I wore this to bed every night, but I don't. I wear this shirt only on very special occasions. I didn't realize the theme today was courage, but I immediately think of Bob Allison and the courage he showed when he had that horrible, debilitating disease. I get a lump in my throat.
Ataxia, yes.
I get a lump in my throat even thinking of that. He was a beautiful athlete, and that caused him to succumb. But the question I had in mind before coming here, you have been on the Veterans Committee. I don't know if you still are, but for the Hall of Fame. Is that correct?
Well, we have a vote, yes, every other year, Brad? Is that the way we
for
vote?
players, yes.
So I was curious how it worked on the Veterans Committee.
You're wanting to know about Tony Oliva, aren't you?
As a matter of fact, I wrote about Hooks Wiltse. I don't know if you saw that or not, but
Say it again?
Hooks Wiltse. People didn't come here to listen about him. But I was just curious how it worked on the Veterans Committee. How do committee members learn about players? How do deliberations take place? When a nominee comes to the attention of the Veterans Committee, what information do you get?
We get a tremendous amount of information put together by the Hall of Fame, the history of each player that's on that list, and then it went to, most of them, I think, went to the Writers Committee first. Is that right, Brad? Isn't that right? And then they pared it down to a smaller list, and then we vote on those players that they've selected on that list. I think, I don't know if that's for public knowledge, how many was on that list, but there was, I think, 10 on the list last year.
Yeah, 10 names to choose
10
from.
names on that list that we voted for, and why we didn't get anybody in there, I don't know, because they have to get 75% of the votes, just like the regular voting, and we weren't able to get anybody in there. So I think there was everybody on that list, every name, I think certainly, you look at them and you say, well, they should be in the Hall of Fame, and we haven't gotten them in yet. So. I was curious about the pre-1945. Pre-1945? We don't vote on those guys. That's a different committee.
That's a historical committee separately appointed by the Hall of Fame. So we'd be happy to talk to you about that a little bit more afterwards even. Mm-hmm. Andrew, right to your left.
It's an honor to see you, Mr. Killebrew.
Thank you.
I was born in '49, and I'm here on my 60th birthday weekend.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. And when I grew up watching ball, it was when I was at that age when kids are really excited. It was the late '50s, of course, and there were the great series with the Yankees and the Braves and all of that happened in '57, '58. So it was a surprise that my family brought me here today. But my questions are, I have a couple quick questions. I don't think you were, I know you weren't a contemporary of Mr. Gehrig, were you?
No, I've had people ask me if I played against Babe Ruth. It used to be, people would come up and they'd say, I saw you play when I was a kid, then it was my father saw you play, and now it's my grandfather saw you play. I said, when it gets to be great-grandfather, I'm out of here. but no, one thing about Lou Gehrig, though, I was proud that one year I was given the Lou Gehrig Award, and that meant a lot to me with his name on it, and we all know what kind of a character he was and the courage that he showed in a very difficult time in his life. So, but I did not play against Lou Gehrig.
If I could just...
Bob Feller I played against.
Right. I'll give up the microphone. If I could just ask a two-part question. One, would you have any anecdotal things to say about Clemente? Because he was of your era. And, and also, and what your feelings are about watching Willie Mays play ball.
About?
Willie Mays.
Willie Mays?
Playing baseball.
Oh, wow. That's a lot to talk about there. But Clemente, of course, played in the National League, and I played in the American League all my career. I got to see him in spring training and all-star games. So and then I got to see him from a distance in World Series games. But one of the greatest players that I've ever seen, certainly. When you talk about Willie Mays, I don't know of anybody else you could say was a better player If you want to talk about players, Willie Mays has to be right at the top of your list. He could do everything well, and not only well, but he did it with a great flair and a kid-like way of playing the game of baseball. Willie was just unbelievably great.